It's 8 o'clock, this is the UK Tonight. Coming up, the parents who believe social media contributed to the deaths of their children. We'll hear from families ripped apart by online challenges gone wrong and cyberbullying. And we'll ask what can be done to tackle this problem as Florida bans social media for under 14s and calls grow for children to be banned from owning smartphones at all. Tonight, I'm joined in the studio by 4 parents who say online platforms are not doing enough to keep children safe. Also coming up, crunch talks over the future of the UK's biggest water company. Sky News has learned that shareholders at Thames Water have called on plans to invest billions of pounds in the company. It comes amid a sharp rise in sewage spills in England, which customers will have to pay to fix. Plus, we have an exclusive interview for you with Jude Bellingham, the English footballer on the path to superstardom at the age of just 20. And sibling rivalry. I'll be speaking to the sisters on opposite sides of this weekend's boat race. All that to come and much more on the UK Tonight. I want to talk tonight about the dangers that social media poses to our children. It's a subject we're all used to talking about by now, but few of us have seen firsthand just how grave the consequences can be. My guests in the studio tonight know only too well the danger. They all believe social media contributed to their children's deaths. Well, this week, America's top doctor spoke out about social media and its impact on young people's mental health. And Florida passed a law banning under 14s from social media platforms. And there's growing momentum behind calls for children to be limited to so-called dumb phones. These are devices that can only make calls and text. Well, 91% of children in the UK own a smartphone by the time they are 11. 44% have one by the age of 9. More than a third of UK children say they have seen some form of potentially harmful content online. 38% of 6 to 12-year-olds saying that they have seen people doing challenges that could be dangerous, and 17% have seen content encouraging them to do such a challenge. A third of children have read nasty comments on video content, and almost 3 in 10 children aged between 8 and 17 say they have experienced someone being nasty or hurtful to them. Well, the effects on our children need to be talked about because there are effects, whether it's the things you let slide, children on screens not taking part in family life, or the things you don't notice, the mental health impact, or the things you notice because it's too late.
12-year-old Archie Battersbee was found unconscious at home in Southend-on-Sea on April 7th. He had a ligature around his neck, and his mother believes he'd been taking part in a dangerous online game.
You know, you get bullied after school, relentless, no stop.
The coroner said 14-year-old Molly Russell died from an act of self-harm while suffering from depression and the negative effects of online content.
Her family would later learn that alone in her room, social media algorithms had been feeding Molly content too disturbing to show here.
It's not about whether it's there in the first place. It's about the way that they recommend and push children into feeling absolute despair. It is inhuman and it has to be illegal.
It's time the toxic culprit culture at the heart of the world's biggest social media platform changed.
Well, you may be watching this thinking, not us, not our child. We talk all the time. They're sensible. It's not that bad. My guest tonight thought that too. Hollie Dancer's son, Archie Battersbee, died in 2022 after he was found unresponsive in his bedroom. A coroner said his death was an accident after a prank or experiment went wrong. George Nicolau's son, Christoforos, took his own life after he was encouraged to carry out increasingly dangerous challenges on a forum on the dark web and threatened with violence against his family if he didn't agree. Lisa Kenovan believes her son Isaac died after taking part in a choking challenge he found on social media. He was 13. And Amanda Stevens' son Olly was murdered in 2021. He was lured to a park near his home and stabbed to death after he stepped in to try to stop the bullying of another boy on social media. Well, thank you all so much for coming in to speak to us here on the UK Tonight. It is a difficult conversation, but it is such an important one, which is why you all agreed to come in, so thank you. Holly, I want to come to you first. The story of your son Archie, we know well. We've covered it extensively on Sky News. It made headlines worldwide. What do you want to come from his death?
Awareness, most definitely awareness. Can I just say, I'll just correct that Archie wasn't found in his bedroom. I came out of the bedroom, he was actually on the stairs. But I think for me, the main thing is, it's not so much the awareness with children I want to get across, it's the parents, because I'll hold my hands up. I was totally naive to the dark side of the internet. You know, all I do really is Facebook. But Archie was such an active child. He was a gymnast, you know, MMA fighter, so he trained. His regime was to train 5 nights a week.
He wasn't a young boy who was locked away in his bedroom.
No, never.
On a computer or on a phone.
Don't get me wrong, he's played things like Fortnite, the games that the boys play, but he was more of an active child, so rather than be on the computer upstairs, he'll be doing chin-ups in the kitchen, on the chin-up, like the bar or on his parallel bars, practising his gymnastics in the front room or on his MR, like the bob, like punching and doing his martial arts on the bob. Very active child, so yeah, for me, it's about getting the awareness out to parents, because we all like to claim, well, we know what our children are doing on social media, but do you really know what your children are doing on social media?
Amanda, you're nodding along there, because from what Holly says, Archie, typical young boy, into so many other things, not just tied to his phone. But when our children are like that, we allow them to be on social media, all their friends are. What's the harm? What's your view on that take?
I think Holly struck on the point of naivety amongst parents, and I think children can be doing lots of different activities, but in Olly's case, the majority of the time, he had his phone in his hand or he was on his Xbox playing games. I think it's naivety of the world that they're living in online which struck us really the most strongly, and it wasn't until it came to the court case that we saw a sequence of events that was pages and pages long, and each description was either a video or a communication or a voice note. And it was just seeing what Olly was living with. An adult couldn't deal with it, let alone a young boy. And from the moment he had a mobile phone, when he first sort of started to walk up to school, so last year of primary school, really, we allowed him access into a world that all of us would shy away from a lot of the content that our children see. And
as you said, you knew Olly was online. He was playing games, and presumably, whether that was in his bedroom or in a front room, you could come and go, you could see him playing it. He would use his phone in front of you. It's not as if it was secretive.
No.
So you were watching him, thinking everything was OK, but it was far from it.
Yeah. Totally, totally. And I think something that struck us really quite shockingly was when we saw the type of content that was being shared by the perpetrators of the crime around violence, weapons. And I think in our naivety, we just thought that the social media companies, it would be policed. That if they saw an image of a knife, for example, that would be blocked. But there was nothing at all.
You've all been on, I hate the word journey, but it has been a journey. It's been a journey dealing with the loss of your children, but also a learning journey in terms of what is out there, what is being done, or rather what is not being done. Lisa, talk to me about your view of your son Isaac on tech, on social media. How did you treat it as a family? Were you quite relaxed about it?
Yeah, we begrudgingly gave Isaac a phone the age of 11. Before that, he only had a phone that was one of ours, so it had no social media on it. When he went to secondary school, he was begging, please can I have a phone, please can I have a phone? So we, in the end, gave him a phone. And he's highly intelligent. him and his friends were looking on certain platforms, very, very harmless stuff that we thought, and the naivety again, like what Amanda says, because they're on their phone in front of you.
You think they're safe, you can see them.
Yeah.
You could see if they're upset.
Yeah.
Or that's what you think.
And we taught Isaac from a very early age that if you saw something that you didn't feel comfortable with, if you go onto your Xbox, do not play with anyone that's strangers, it's just purely your friends. But then when the lockdowns happened, they were on their phones more for contacting each other, on their Xbox more. So I feel that that has had quite a big role in what's happened with Isaac, because he got bored, because they weren't allowed to go out and play, and his friends were a little way from where we live. So
it's the only way they could communicate.
Yeah, we couldn't travel, apparently. We couldn't travel so he could meet up with his friends. So it just impacted more and more. And he was a very curious child. Boys are. They're very curious, you know. Don't touch the red button, they'll touch the red button.
And that's where these TikTok challenges that happen can be so dangerous, because children don't think too much about risk, do they? They would have seen it as fun.
Yeah.
A dare, like in the old days when you dared in the playground.
Yeah. He would never intentionally leave us. You know, he was such a beautiful, loving, family-orientated. Yeah.
George, let's talk about Christoforos, because we've been talking about 3 children taken, believed by, you know, what we call traditional social media and tech, the social media platforms, TikTok, you know, Instagram, the like. But Christoforos got involved in the dark web. And for parents watching at home, that will probably be, for their 12 to 16-year-old, unfathomable as to how they would find themselves on the dark web. Talk to me about the context with which Christoforos found that. Did you have any inkling?
Well, actually, he didn't know he was involved in the dark web.
Okay.
You see, like probably a lot of our children, and a lot of children where I do presentations for our charity at schools regularly, when I ask them a question and I say, OK, so how many of you play online games? So in Christopher's case, he was playing online games. He would have his headphones on. And then while he was playing, he received a pop-up on his screen offering him a free game. And that particular free game had a value of £20. So upon playing, and he sees this game that many kids want, he clicked on it. The second you click on that, they asked him to give information, his personal information, copies of our passports, you know, family names, and then once they cornered him and got him where they wanted to have him, they started giving him challenges. And in fact, they even made him get his phone and walk around the house so he can show them any cameras, alarms that look like cameras. We used to tell Christopher that we've got CCTV inside our house. So when he used to see the alarm sensors, he'd think that was a camera. And he actually, obviously, after we lost him, we found that he actually disconnected that, hence why the alarm went off several times. So, you know, it's very difficult to get parents to understand the dangers there is behind this. And I think you said earlier on that many parents would say, well, my son or daughter will not do that. And one of the things that we do when we go to, because we've set up a charity called the Christoforos Charity Foundation, and when I go and do presentations at schools, I basically tell them to just make sure that the parents know what their children are doing.
I would imagine so many parents watching tonight, their attention has turned to the TV at different points that you've all said. Pop-up ads, on games,
Oh, yes.
TikTok challenges. As parents, none of us grew up with the internet. And I think that's something that perhaps why parents say, oh, it can't be that bad. I've put parental controls on their phone. It will be okay. I can see them when they're using their phone. They have limited time. All these things put in place. And because we didn't grow up with the internet, we might have been bullied in the traditional sense. But you could go home and it was left at school. Imagine if you did something embarrassing at school. It'd be talk of the school for a few days. If it's online, it's the talk of the school for weeks, months. And this is the world that children live in now. Holly, what do you want to say to parents about taking it seriously, even if they think they're doing everything right?
For me, I think I'm a very, very overprotective mum. My kids have never been raised on the street. They've always been focused on their hobbies and what they love to do, what they're passionate about. They didn't walk anywhere. They're chauffeur-driven to school.
Mum's taxi.
Very, very protective. But for me, what I didn't realise is by having that mobile phone, they're bringing 1 billion strangers into their homes.
Oh, it's just giving me a shiver.
Yeah, it's true.
And I think that is the message that I think we really need to get out there. You know, it's not you can protect your child, but you're bringing, for me, my home is my children's safe place, and the internet access is literally bringing 1 billion strangers into our home.
Amanda, how do you deal with the peer pressure? Because we talk now about a child getting a phone at the age of 11 as a rite of passage. All their friends have got one. If they don't have one, they'll be isolated, they'll feel left out, and it will impact them negatively. What's your view on that?
I think we are going to go backwards at some point so that our children can reclaim their childhood. I think the Online Safety Act now has been passed. There's a lot of work being done by Ofcom to make sure that everything can be policed. So I think, for the sake of our children and their futures, parents now are very aware. Children are aware, and I don't think children are actually happy. I don't think they can be happy when they look on their phones and they're being bullied and they're seeing things that are upsetting. They're all completely desensitised now to what they've seen because they've had them from a very young age. Nothing shocks them. So it has to go back. And I think I've heard recently there was mums campaigning and saying, just don't give your child a smartphone. When it's the rite of passage time, just don't. And it was a whole band of mothers in the same area and it was starting to go national. And I do think that, just don't give them a phone to start with. Once the genie's out of the bottle, it's very hard to get it back in. But if we can go back to that primary school and stop it, that's how we can change things.
I think it's the transition period, isn't it, where the children are at their most vulnerable.
Very vulnerable.
And they do really sort of go onto the phone. Archie wasn't... the reason Archie was given a phone is obviously because his dad and myself weren't together, and it was a way of his dad contacting him.
Yeah.
But I didn't encourage him. Yeah, I didn't encourage him to have the phone. But it's just...
Do you know what it is? It's like when I go and do presentations at schools, which we've done many, and please, schools, any schools that want to come and we'll do a presentation happily, but we take children out. That's what our charity does. So we take children on trips, day trips, and we give them a day out. And it's all free, of course. But we actually say to the children, as part of a rule, you want to come on the trip, we'll happily take you, but you cannot bring your phone.
Brilliant.
And
I bet they kick up a bit of a fuss in the beginning.
Well, we've set up a charity, and we've got a very big committee, thanks to the committee, where we've said, well, are the children going to accept it? And I said, well, we put it to the test. So I went to this one particular school, and there were 650 children in that school. And I was asking the children at random, can you go onto your phone and have a look how many times you've visited TikTok? And she went onto her phone and she went, I've done 18 hours of TikTok. 18 hours. I mean, that's crazy. Anyway, the fact is that we managed to take that girl out on a trip with us, her and 50 others, and they never took their phone. And she came up to me and said, do you know what? We had a well of a time. You know, the children actually miss love.
Yeah, that's it.
And because social media has taken control of their lives, they don't know none the wiser. And the second you give them a bit of love and a bit of treat, they love it.
Lisa, how much do parents need to lead by example? Because I would imagine, you know, 18 hours on TikTok, I would imagine if some parents looked at their phone and had a look at how much they were on Instagram or Facebook, might not be that far away from it.
There's proof that the brain doesn't mature enough until about, I think it's 25.
Yeah, 24, 25.
So if that child has been given a phone at 11 and the amount of stuff that's been presented to them, especially the algorithms, their poor brain cannot deal with the amount of negativity coming through. And that's really hard for a parent to deal with, or, you know, an adult to deal with. We recently attended a board meeting at Westminster, and there were some children there, and they actually expressed their concerns about the amount of stuff they've been exposed to. And these were, I think they were from like the age of 11, I think they're up to about the age of 16, 17. They want change. But, you know, we want social media platforms to actually say, hang on a minute, they need to take accountability at the end of the day.
Well, we're going to talk more about this after the break. And Amanda, the organisation you were referring to, because I started following them on social media, Smartphone Free Childhood, the parents who are at grassroots saying, don't give your children's phone, and we all need to be in it together, so there's no peer pressure. OK, stay with us, because still to come here on the UK Tonight, Baroness Kidron will be joining our discussion. She campaigned for better protection of children on digital platforms. She knows the parents in the studio well.
And now it's coming from both sides, and it's moving this way.
Only about half a mile from the Turkish coast, and it's evident that the boat seriously overcrowded. This is one of the most severe viruses in the world.
I'm Alex Crawford, and I'm Sky's special correspondent based in Istanbul.
The biggest party Tripoli has ever seen.
That's it. It got us then. There's a lot of action going on, a lot of hits going in still. We aim to be the best and the most trusted place in news.
Clearly not had very much to eat at all. A lot of them extremely thin and very frail. Look at her arms. I can put my entire hand round.
This is the cocktail of drugs which the doctors at this hospital have been giving their coronavirus patients. Made for people who want clarity in an uncertain world.
Mother Nature can be vicious, absolutely savage.
The world's largest falls now down to a trickle in places.
I can't imagine how much plastic is lying at the bottom of this huge lake. Whoa! Close and personal with a rhino.
This is what makes the job so fantastic.
Hello and welcome back to the UK Tonight, talking this evening about the dangers of social media for children. I want to bring Baroness Kidron into the discussion now, founder and chair of the Five Rights Foundation and campaigner for better protections for children online, played a big part in the online safety bill. And thank you so much for joining us tonight, Baroness Kidron. I know you know the stories of the parents in the studio tonight really well. I want to talk to you first about where the responsibility lies for keeping children safe online. Parents, schools, tech companies or government?
Well, I think I might reverse your list and say government, tech companies, schools, parents, and finally children. And I think that one of the mistakes that has happened is that we're putting so much on children. And I heard those stories, I've heard the stories before, and it never ceases to shock me that we have built a society where we think that that is okay for children to deal with on their own. And my heart goes out, and I have to, in my first contribution, just pay tribute to the families. As you say, many of them who I know as members of the bereaved families for online safety, who've turned their grief into campaigning to prevent other children meeting the same fate, while billion-dollar companies, multinational companies, are allowed to continue with impunity. So government has to set the rules, companies need to follow them.
Baroness Kidron, you've spoken to the bigwigs at tech companies about this, and they say all the right things, but I suppose the big question is, are they doing all the right things?
No, they're not. And I was quite horrified recently when some of the tech leaders went to Congress and Mark Zuckerberg turned around and he paid his respects to families who've lost children in America. And I think that was cynical, because there are things he could do today to Instagram, to WhatsApp, you know, to Facebook, to all of his services that would make it safer for children. In the end, you know, pleading with tech companies is of limited use, and we have to have laws, and we have to have laws across the world. And I am quite pleased to be speaking to you today with those fantastic parents in your studio, because today Ofcom announced that from the 1st of April, one of the measures that we brought into the online safety bill, which was the ability for coroners to access data in the case of a bereaved child, will be active from next Monday. From next Monday, parents who find themselves in this tragic situation will no longer be prevented from understanding the circumstances of their children's death. And having spent a lot of time with parents, I know just how important that is. But what we really want is to make it safer upstream. We don't want these bereavements.
Yeah, nobody wants to be in the group that I have in here. We were just saying it's so strong that you've all come together, but none of you want to be in this group, and you don't want any new members. I'll ask the question about, I know Ian Russell is with you as part of this group, and of course, in his daughter's case, Molly Russell, the coroner's ruling in Molly's case was a landmark ruling, because the contribution of social media to her death was officially recognised, and it was recognised for the first time. As a group of parents fighting the fight that you are, how important is it to have that official word, that official paperwork that says this is happening? Because I don't know how your lived experiences aren't enough, but do you feel that the Molly Russell case and this official recognition is what you need to move forward? I'll bring that to you, Holly, if I may.
Yeah, most definitely. I think Ian is pretty much, I can speak for all of us, the centre of all this. He formed the group. Just this last thing that Beeban has just said about the rule coming in on the 1st of April, with Archie's inquest, it went down as prank gone wrong, which I do think is the right thing, but I still don't know what Archie watched that day. I know that he watched 7 minutes of TikTok. That's there, the evidence is there, but
you don't know
the
what
coins expired after 28 days. Well, obviously my hospital battle was 4 months, so now from the 1st of April I hope to be able to retrieve that data.
I just want to bring Baroness Kidron in for something that we've touched on, but I think it's really important to explore. Harmful content online for children on all of these platforms. It's not just there for them to find, it's there to follow them. And that is the problem. They may just see something once, but the systems, the algorithms, I mean, we know that word so well now, don't we? The algorithms are designed as such that if you have a look at one thing, it'll say, oh, you like that, I'll give you more of it. And that's the really dangerous part, isn't it, Baroness Kidron?
Absolutely, and that's the bit that is absolutely at the centre of the design of the platform, which is why it is impossible for parents to keep children safe if something is chasing their child that is unsafe. And we are expecting, and we are, you know, very excited, I suppose, if you can say it that way, that the Children's Code in the Online Safety Act, which will be with us later this year, probably in early May, will make a huge difference, because it actually says at the heart of the bill that the role of algorithms will be the responsibility of the tech companies. So we are beginning to make a difference, but it's not coming fast enough. The tech companies could get ahead of the law if they like. And I have to say, it causes me some upset that actually other jurisdictions outside the UK are way behind us, including America. So it will be safer here, and the algorithms will be something that the tech companies are responsible for. But, you know, I don't know why we have to fight quite so hard for this, because it seems very obvious to me, and I was really taken by that statement that children are sad. We know children are sad. They're increasingly sad. They're very muddled by the childhood that we've given them. And I think we have a huge responsibility before the onslaught of AI and all that is coming down the pike to get this right for kids and to get it right for childhood.
And Baroness Kidron, so well put. All the parents are nodding along in the studio here. Thank you for your time here on the UK Tonight. We really appreciate it. Lisa, are you hopeful for the future? Because as the Baroness laid out there is a path forward.
Yeah, I mean,
thank you to parents like you who are fighting on behalf of the parents who haven't yet been affected by this. It's down to you that a lot of this is happening. But as the Baroness said, there's going to be access to information, hopefully, for parents from social media companies, backed up by law. How hopeful are you?
Oh, it's very encouraging. Obviously, sadly, it's too late for many of us. But what's happened with us, because they found some video evidence of Isaac doing the challenge, we didn't actually get any more information about if it was TikTok. So we are considering about reopening an inquest, and to have that available now, that's priceless. We just don't want anyone else. The reality is, unfortunately, I think there will be more lives lost. But now these things are in place, we can only hope that the momentum will keep going and speed up.
Well, Lisa, remembering your son Isaac, Hollie, remembering your son Archie, George, remembering your son Christopher, and Amanda, remembering your son Olly. It's a difficult and important conversation to have, and thank you for continuing it and fighting on behalf of not just your families, but so many others as well. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, TikTok have told us it has industry-leading safeguards, and the majority of content that violates its policies is proactively removed before it is reported or viewed by anyone. And it says its family pairing feature allows parents to link their account to their children's to choose content, privacy and well-being settings. We have also given a right of reply to Snapchat. They told us this: as a platform popular with young people, we know we have additional responsibilities to create a safe and positive experience. We have extra protections for under 18s and offer parental tools so parents can see who their teens are talking to and check their privacy settings. We support the aims of the Online Safety Act and work with experts to inform our approach to safety on Snapchat. Well, Meta, the owner of Facebook and Instagram, as I said, declined to give us a comment this evening. Still to come here on the UK Tonight. Crunch talks over the future of the UK's biggest water company. We will have the latest with our city editor, and we have an exclusive interview for you with England superstar Jude Bellingham. Hello, welcome back to the UK Tonight. We have breaking news for you this evening, and crunch talks have been held over the future of Thames Water, the UK's biggest water company. This is after shareholders called on plans to invest billions of pounds. Our city editor Mark Hyman broke the story and joins us now with more details. Mark.
Yeah, that's right, Sarah-Jane. Significant news tonight about the future of Britain's biggest water company. It's got 15 million customers and employs 7,000 people. Now, for the last few months, Thames Water's directors have been in discussions with the industry regulator about a package of measures that the company says it needs to ensure its survival, and that shareholders will stump up more than £3 billion that they previously committed to investing in the company. But what I understand is that the directors of Thames Water have been locked in crunch talks today because they have been informed that the shareholders do not currently want to invest that money. Now, £750 million of that funding was supposed to go into the company in the form of new shares this year, with the remainder over the coming years. But if the shareholders do not invest that money, it raises serious questions about whether Thames Water can survive. Now, last July, Sarah-Jane, the government began drawing up contingency plans for the collapse of Thames Water because of its parlous finances. Thames has got over £15 billion of debt that it needs to repay in the coming years, and at the moment it has no way of doing that. Now, tomorrow morning there will be an announcement from the company to say that its shareholders are not currently minded to invest that money. I understand the shareholders themselves will give their own side of the story as to why that's the case, but some serious questions being asked now about whether Britain's biggest water company will ultimately need to be nationalised, at least temporarily.
OK, Mark Kleiman there with the update. That uncertainty over the future of Thames Water comes amid a new record for sewage spillages in England's rivers. There were 464,000 spills last year. That's up 54% in 2022. And it's customers who will have to pay to fix the problem. Sky's business correspondent Paul Kelso has more.
It's the Oxford-Cambridge boat race on the Thames in London this weekend, but there'll be no prizes for anyone taking a dip.
It's a machine which tells us how much E. coli is in the water sample that we're taking.
Okay. River campaigners have detected dangerous levels of E. coli in the water, and they're warning competitors to take care.
In here, we want less than 1,000. What I've been finding is about 3,000 on average. At its highest spike, about 10,000.
10 times safe flow.
10 times the amount than safe bathing water.
The view from Fulham is matched across England as sewage discharges into rivers and seas reached record levels last year. The Environment Agency measures sewage discharged from every storm overflow in England. It found the total duration of sewage spills more than doubled from 1.7 million hours to over 3.6 million in 2023. And the total number of spills rose by more than half, from 301,000 to more than 460,000.
After many years of underinvestment from water companies and a 70% funding cut of the Environment Agency's budget, it means they can do whatever they want. And in this case, it means an increase of 100% year on year, which means that river users and communities up and downstream along the Thames are extremely at risk.
Sewage discharges happen when wastewater and rainwater sharing the same pipes have nowhere else to go. Changing that will cost billions and take decades. Water companies say we will have to pay for it.
We have not been investing as much as we should because bills have been kept too low. Bill rises are never welcome, but sadly they will now be needed in order to help facilitate the investment that is vital to make sure our network can withstand the pressures of climate change and population growth.
So this is sewage running out here.
Britain is unique in having an almost entirely privatised water industry, giving companies and their investors monopoly control of a vital resource.
The water industry says it will invest tens of billions of pounds over the next decade if it can guarantee investors that customer bills will go up and fines for polluting rivers and seas don't get too high. That leaves regulators and the government facing a choice about how hard to squeeze the privatised industry to do its job.
Regulator Ofwat will decide how high bills can rise in the summer. The public will settle for investors who've cleaned up for decades to do the same for our rivers. Paul Kelso, Sky News.
Now, it promises to be a huge year for football, with the Euros taking place in Germany this summer. And Jude Bellingham is hoping to propel England to glory. He's been Real Madrid's star player since moving to the club last summer. And after his last-minute equaliser in a friendly against Belgium last night, he sat down with our sports correspondent, Rob Harris, and told him he is living the dream.
I wake up and I have to pinch myself when I'm playing for England at Wembley or playing at the Bernabeu for Real Madrid. It's something that I could never have dreamed of happening this early, but yeah, I'm grateful to everyone who's played a part in my journey to get me here.
Growing up, as we approach the Euros this summer, which of the Euros that particularly you remember most?
They weren't great for England, to be fair, so it's difficult, but I think the first one I always remember watching the games with my family, to be fair. I remember kind of going out to Iceland, Italy, and that was probably my two earliest ones until I kind of played in the next one. So, yeah, not the best memories from the perspective of an England fan, but all round it was really fun, kind of experiencing that with my brother and always saying to each other that one day we'll be there, and hopefully this summer I will be again.
And Rob Harris joins me in the studio. Sorry, we were laughing because we were doing some maths as to how old Jude Bellingham would be when it came to the 2038.
8 World Cup. I was saying to him, I said, you could be going to World Cups for years.
And I didn't want to do the maths as to how old I would be at the 2038 World Cup. That's another matter altogether. But, Rob, what a great interview, because Jude Bellingham is a massive star, and it's easy to forget he is just 20 years old. So there is more to come from him.
Yeah, he's formidable, fearless and adventurous. The fact is, in the midst of the pandemic, he left Birmingham City to go to Borussia Dortmund in 2020, made his mark there over 3 seasons, and then has gone into one of the toughest football environments possible, Real Madrid, and made a huge impact immediately. And those fans let you know if you aren't performing. And he's been firing the goals, in 20 goals already this season, top of the league there. He could still win the Champions League as well, of course, final here at Wembley in May. But he really gave a sense of just how big he is when I sort of sat down to speak with him. It's about his playing style as well, to me.
People kind of like the style in which I play, you know, I think the way I move and that kind of thing, and the way I move with the ball, and it's really nice. I try to relate to the fans while I'm playing as well. I want the fans to feel like I'm another fan playing and representing them, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. And yeah, if they can see me and see someone that they can relate to and support, then it's going to help the support of the team as well. And you know, their support means a lot to us, more than they probably believe. So when the country's positive and when the fans are positive, the team will play better.
So come on then, the Euros this summer. It's going to be big for Jude Bellingham if he manages to stay in form and fit.
Absolutely, and he knows it's all about trophies. When we're talking, he was remembering growing up, some of the tournaments I was at where England really struggled. The Iceland defeat in 2016 at the Euros, and knows he watched the fan. And he says he's been picking up some of that pain from the likes of Jordan Henderson, who's been an inspiration and a role model to help guide this new era through for England. But he knows all about how much it matters to England to try to end all the years of hurt for the men's team since '66. And although he's got that swagger of superstardom when on the pitch, he's so level-headed, even though he's going to be probably maybe one of the biggest names ever to play for England.
Yeah, gosh, the Euros are going to come around soon enough, aren't they? Brilliant. OK, Rob, thank you for that. Rob's chat with Jude Bellingham. You can see more on the website skynews.com. Still to come here on the programme on the UK Tonight. I'm going to speak to the sisters who will be on opposite sides of the boat race this weekend. And we'll round up the day's sport as former England captain Steph Houghton announces that she'll be retiring from football at the end of the season.
And coming up on The World with me, Yalda Hakim, we try to get to the bottom of why the number of people making the dangerous journey across the Channel is surging once again, despite promises by leaders to stop the boats. Plus, some major questions for the Israeli military. Sky News investigates one incident in Gaza which saw an aid shelter attacked. That's all from 9 p.m.
Well, we don't know from the study fully quite what they made as being lifestyle changes, of course, alongside. People make good changes after they make good exercise changes. So if you are exercising more, you tend to have a little less alcohol, you drink less in the evening, you eat better diet and so on. But the key thing really is when you start to get yourself moving, when you start to get outside walking, that's what the participants were doing in the research study, you're raising your hormone levels, you're raising your serotonin levels. And that's quite important because serotonin is a precursor to melatonin, and melatonin makes us fall asleep. So by the nature of just literally moving somewhat frequently, you're changing your hormone structure, you're increasing your blood circulation. You're also, of course, burning off some energy, so you're going to get more tired by the evening and fall asleep more quickly. So there's a few things all combined together. But as I say, people do make great changes in their lifestyle alongside exercise changes. It's a real trigger to making positive overall life balance movement. So the test results are not entirely surprising. It's good to get reinforcement of the fact that it's another good reason to get out there and do some exercise. I'd say that that small amount per week is a nice start point. And in reality, we're designed to work much more than that. We should be working in some form 4 or 5 days per week, even on a low level of going for fast-paced walking, this zone 2 cardio training approach where you're working at a medium level. It's great for us, both in terms of hormone balance, in terms of our overall sense of well-being. We do have a need to try and create hormone release in our system. And part of the way of doing that really is not just this exercise of going for low-grade cardio, but lifting heavy things, moving heavy objects, being tested. Our bodies are designed to be tested regularly. And without that, we just start to work into a different life pattern. And our sleep cycles rely on that exact setup. Always lifestyle changes produce this very nice upward spiral of effect on your system. So the more that you do, the more you want to make changes, your body's allowed to make changes, it grows to make changes, and then it gets easier and easier, results get better and better. And likewise, when you do nothing, it spirals downwards in the exact same way. So we've got to make sure we have your positive action plans. And yes, what's important too, And overnight, if you're not sleeping well, you can't reproduce another hormone, cortisol. And we need cortisol, it's our stress hormone, to feel awake and feel alive and feel regenerated. Now, without good sleep, you can't get that. So you start the day feeling tired and you reach for what? More coffee, more sugared foods to get a bit of a kicker. And then you're fighting a battle all day.
Hello, welcome back to the UK Tonight. Coming up, I speak to the sisters who are up against each other in this weekend's boat race. But first of all, Adam is here with the sport. And Adam, big news from the world of women's football. Steph Horton announcing her retirement. Was that unexpected?
I wouldn't say it was entirely unexpected. Obviously, whenever anyone of the standing of Steph Horton announces a retirement, it will bring a frisson of surprise, certainly, but she is 35. Yeah. She's coming to the end of her career, a glittering career. She's won multiple trophies, 3 WSL titles, 2 with Arsenal, 1 with Manchester City, 121 England caps, 13 goals, and a real trailblazer in the game. So, yeah, not unexpected, but all the same, it's an emotional moment.
It's a big moment
for her to call it a day. Not right now. That will happen at the end of the season. We can have a little listen to exactly what she said about that today.
When you've been under this much pressure for a long time, for the career that I've had since probably making my debut in England from 17 years old, and training every single day and not having much time off and competing in tournaments every single year, and especially the last 2 years, I think mentally that has been really rough in terms of not just for me but my family as well, and I've given absolutely everything and I'm proud of that for doing that, but I feel as though now I'm ready to learn something new, whatever that might be. And
so interesting, isn't it, when you talk about all the decisions that go into making that big decision about retirement. But as you said, there's more to come before she hangs up her boots.
Yeah, 5 games to go in the WSL title race. They're joint top with Chelsea. So ideally, she will have a fairy tale end to her career, and it'll be fascinating to see how it all pans out. But, you know, she has been called an icon by so many of her colleagues today, and I'm sure those tributes will continue. That's one of the big stories today. Let's find out exactly what's been going on elsewhere today.
This Sky News Sports Bulletin is brought to you by Vitality. Getting more people more active. Live life with Vitality.
Tell me about this business venture then, the Kings League. Why really did you want to create that in the first place?
Well, I think that there was a need for all this generation that is coming, all these young guys that they want something that is short but very exciting, and that they cannot lose focus, because what's happening with traditional football is that 90 minutes might be a little bit long for these new generations. Obviously not the final of the Champions League or the semi-finals of the Champions League or the last games of the leagues, but there are too many games, too many football. People sometimes get lost on how many competitions. And we wanted to create a product that was similar to football, that it's complementary, but because there is a lot of people that likes football and likes Kings League.
This Sky News Sports Bulletin is brought to you by Vitality.
Now, earlier we told you about the dire state of the UK's waterways. Well, this weekend it is the famous Oxford-Cambridge boat race. 2 of those taking part are Maria and Helen Nielsen-Scott, sisters who are on opposite sides of the race this weekend, one in the Oxford squad, one in Cambridge's. Earlier, I went down to the Thames and I asked them how they were feeling ahead of the big day.
It's quite exciting. It's quite a cool thing to be a part of anyway, I guess. But, yeah, to be making history, that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, you've rowed together for a number of years. You rowed together at Oxford. And then, obviously, Helen, you defected to Cambridge, and that's where this rivalry's come from. What did you think when you knew that you were going to race against your sister, regardless of the moment in history? What was your initial reaction when you knew you'd be going up against each other?
Well, it's quite a long process to get to race in the first place, so it didn't really cross my mind too much. You're just focused on doing the training and getting to the point where you are in the race. So it didn't really hit me, and then you have crew announcements, and you're like, I'm going to be racing a lot of my friends from last year and my sister. So yeah, it is a very cool experience.
Ahead of the weekend, you've been advised to take some precautions because of the quality of the water in the Thames and a fear of E. coli. What have you been told about that, Maria? What are they asking you to do?
Yeah, so it's really been great that they've tested so that we know to take these extra precautions. So we're making sure if you've got any cuts or grazes, that keep them covered, keep them clean. If you get any water in your mouth, try and avoid doing that. But if you do, then we know that we have to go and get some medical attention.
Well, you're pretty good rowers, so hopefully none of that will happen. But Helen, the health of the UK's waterways is a really hot topic at the moment, and the pollution that's in them, the sewage. How concerned are you about the quality of water in the UK? Because obviously you're out on the water every day. What do you see?
So obviously the water is really important to all of us. We're out there, as you said, every day training. So with the water quality being poor is something that we're quite concerned about. But we know what to do, and we're all very alert to that. And we're very happy that the boat race can be used to bring extra attention to that and to address any environmental concerns.
Like I said, there is this chance to make history this weekend. Where does that factor in your head that will be so full of things ahead of going out into the water?
To be honest, the boat race is so much more, I don't know, it's beyond just our sibling relationship, if that makes sense. So it hasn't factored too much because it's about our crews and making sure we have the best for our own crews. So yeah, a lot of our discussions around being internal and focusing on what we do as a crew rather than focusing too much on the opposition.
I love that making history will be a sideshow for you both. Well, best of luck to both of you, and as I say, may the best team win.
Thank you.
Apparently rain is OK on the day, but wind will not be their friend. That's what they told me. Anyway, let's have a look at the weather.
Warm memories wherever you go. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Cool and unsettled for the next few days, but it's looking milder for Easter. Before then, blustery this evening with rain over the Northern Isles clearing and heavy showers elsewhere concentrated in the west. They'll gradually become confined to western Irish seacoast tonight.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
That's all from the UK tonight. You can catch up on the highlights on our webpage. Just scan the QR code on your screen. Coming up next, it is The World with Yalda Hakim. We'll see you tomorrow night at 8.